Hey friends, Powwow Guy here. Rob Phoenix. Hope you're all doing well. Happy fall. Since we're moving into that sort of spooky time of year, I thought it'd be kind of an interesting conversation to have about spell books. The excuse me, the tradition of powwow has literally the first grimoire ever written in the United States, which of course was The Long Lost Friend, um, written by John George Homan in Reading, Pennsylvania, in 1819, 1820. So a little over 200 years ago. But a lot of what he wrote was based off of earlier grimoires from Germany, particularly Egyptian Secrets of Albertus Magnus. Now, this was a grimoire of Christian folk magic that was used by what we would know as like the cunning folk in Europe, Eastern Europe, and such. It was just like Christian based charms and cures for healing and such with. Um, because I've been doing this for a very long time, I actually have a copy of the Egyptian Secrets of Albertus Magnus. Now, this is a very old copy. It was from 18, well, the first owner owned it in the year 1845. And you can see, I don't know if you can see here, but it says 1845. And then it was passed on to someone in 1885, which you can see on the front inside cover here. 1885. So this charm and spell book was used over 200 years ago or 200 years ago. Um, and now it's in my possession. So I have in my possession and for my use a book of spells, charms, cures, prescriptions, formulas, and such that was used well over 200 years ago by at least two practitioners whose names are written in this book. And so that adds like a lot of extra like sort of power to the work that I'm doing. So it's kind of interesting to know that this book, which is a couple hundred years old, um, had at least two previous users in the 1800s who owned the book, wrote their names in the book, the dates in the book, and used the book, used the charms, spells, formulas, prescriptions, cures found within. And so the moral of this is that the tradition of Pennsylvania Dutch powwow has so much history. And there's a lot of power in that history. Like we still have, it's one of probably the most well documented traditions, magical traditions in the United States. It's absolutely one of the first. Again, the grimoire of the long lost friend was literally the first magical grimoire ever written in the United States, and that's part of the powwowing tradition. And I am very fortunate and blessed to have a copy of a grimoire that predated the long lost friend, but was also the inspiration for that. That was used by at least two practitioners of this type of Christian folk healing and magic, which I use in my own work. So, uh, Pennsylvania Dutch powwow is not a new tradition. It's old. We have history. We have um, a lot of connections to our past. Literally, the entire tradition is documented within historical records and such. And we still have these old, like charms, spells, and prescription books that thankfully still exists today. And I'm very blessed to have a copy that was used by practitioners of the tradition uh, almost 200 years ago. And so it's very cool to have this because when I use this, I feel that connection to the past, to brauchers slash powwowers of the past 200 years ago that were using this very same copy, this literal exact copy for healing, protection, anti-witchcraft, and such with. Um, almost 200 years ago. So I just think that's very cool. Like Powwow has a very well documented history, and we still have today the stuff that was used back like 300 years ago. And if you're lucky enough to find a broker such as myself that has copies of this old stuff, like don't discount that, because that's history. This is history. This is a proof that our tradition has been going on for a couple hundred years, and people have been doing the same stuff that we're doing today. They were doing that like 300 years ago. So anyway, it's just really interesting to me. I hope you find this interesting. If you ever want to talk to me privately about this book, we can certainly chat about it. But that's it for tonight. God bless you guys. Love you, and we'll talk soon.